Oh, there's fish. Yeah, as soon as I dropped it down. All right, and he's off. That little brookie. All right, so today I'm going to talk about two different rod materials for ice rods. So your ice rods are going to come in two basic materials. One is fiberglass. These are glass rods like the one I have here. And the other is going to be graphite rods. So that's like this rod here. So these are the two most common materials that ice rods are made from. And today I wanted to go over helping you decide which ice rod blank material is best suited for your style of fishing. There's fish. Ooh, there's a bite. Missed him. There we go, got one. Little rainbow. Nice. Those glass rods, especially on this one, this noodle rod, I really have to hook set hard on these fish to get a good hook set and drive that hook in there. Okay, so as you see, this is a glass rod. It has almost a transparent type appearance to it, although you can paint them, so sometimes glass rods will not look transparent like this one. But there's a couple key features of glass rods. One is they have an incredible amount of strength and power in the glass. So they're very difficult to break, but they can also be very sensitive. So most of the noodle rods that you'll see out on the market, like this one, that can bend like this, I would not do this to a graphite rod because it would snap. So what you have with a glass rod is there's all these longitudinal fibers in there that give it its incredible strength. And also, because of that, those fibers, it can be very sensitive but strong. So you'll see, like with this one here, just barely moving that rod tip, and I can move that all the way down. So it's really easy to detect a bite. But as you see, it can bend deep into the rod as well. So that goes into two things that you're looking for on rods. One is power. Now so power is essentially is how far down in the rod does it bend. So in this rod, it bends over halfway down in the rod. So this would be a low power rod versus a graphite rod like I have here. This is a medium power rod. It bends about halfway down the rod and then straightens out. Power is where you get strength for fighting fish, for hook sets, and things of that nature. Now, this graphite rod here is great at driving that hook home. If I set the hook, it transfers that power very well, very quickly. And that has some part to do with the action of the rod. So oftentimes you'll see rods are rated as fast action or slow action. Most of your glass rods are slow action, and what that means is it takes a long time for the rod to return to its static straight shape after it's let loose. So see how long it bounces around? So that's a slow action because it takes a long time to get back to where its original shape. Fast action rod like this, boom, right back to its original shape very quickly. So most of your graphite rods are going to be fast action. You can get, medium action rods and some really whippy graphite rods, but in ice rods, most of them are going to be fast action. Whereas in glass rods, you'll find really slow action ones, and you'll find some medium action ones, especially glass rods that are designed for big predatory fish. Now, it begs the question, which material is right for you? If you're fishing deep and you need a lot of power to drive that hook home because you're fishing 50, 60 feet down, the graphite, because of that fast action, is going to be better. It's going to help drive that hook set home. Whereas on this glass rod, this is great for being able to detect those ultralight bites and also just make smaller fish a lot more fun. But like I said, you can get heavier glass rods if you're going to go after those big predatory fish that have a little bit more moderate or medium action. It's going to help you drive that hook home. But the nice thing about that glass is it's going to have a ton of backbone It's going to help you bring that fish to that hole, even if that fish is a little bit too large for the rod that you're fishing. Whereas on graphite rods, you know, if you catch a big fish and it overpowers the rod, you're going to end up with a 3-piece rod or 2-piece rod, because it's going to snap, it's going to break. When they run out of power, the graphite just explodes. I mean, obviously you should have your drag system set to avoid that, but even then I've caught big rainbows that have just exploded some of my graphite rods, even with a relatively loose drag that just pushes the rod beyond its limit. In general, glass rods are going to be a little less expensive, but you can still find decent quality graphite rods out there that come close to these glass rod prices. But like I said, I generally favor the graphite for deep water fishing for really good quick hook sets. Like when I'm jigging today for trout, I actually prefer that fast action because I want to be able to respond quickly to those strikes, those quick strikes that they make. Whereas with this glass rod, I really actually prefer to use this with like panfish and stuff, where they slurp it in and kind of swim around with it a little bit. It helps me detect those ultralight bites of bluegill and perch, and crappie as well. All right, let's get one on the graphite rod. It is fun catching them on these noodle glass rods though. These things are fun and cheap. I think this is like $6 rod. There's fish. I missed it. There he's got him. Ooh, big old brookie. Yeah. So you notice on the end of my graphite rod here, I have a little spring bobber. Those are typically made of spring steel or titanium. Incorporating those either as built into the rod like they are here, or you can actually buy these aftermarket and then clip those onto any of your graphite rods. What it does is it gives you that sensitivity that you'll just never be able to achieve with graphite like you can get here on a glass rod. So it's a really cool thing to incorporate. Now some companies have blended these two materials to create what we call composite rods. So that's a blend of fiberglass and graphite. You don't see too many composite rods in ice fishing, but some companies like Ugly Stick are famous for creating a sort of hybrid design where they have a graphite base to the rod, and then as you move out to the tip, they've incorporated a fiberglass tip. That gives that tip some sensitivity. It also gives it durability, right? Because fiberglass is really hard to snap. You know, graphite tips, if you smack them on something or you put them in the back of your sled and they're rattling against something, they can create microfractures. You go to set the hook on a fish or you're fighting a fish, it'll snap. With this fiberglass tip on these Ugly Sticks, it really increases the durability of the rod, but also the sensitivity of the rod while maintaining the power and fast action deeper in the backbone of the rod. So kind of a cool way to blend the two rod materials to their advantage. I'll put some links to my favorites, fiberglass, graphite, and hybrid rods below. If you have any questions, just let me know, and I'll see you next time out on the ice. Just remember, fish smarter, not harder. Bye, guys.